I have walked out on a pool deck and been like, excuse me. And it didn't go over very well, so I didn't do that again.
No. I'd love to have seen that.
Excuse me.
Welcome to Fit to Be Radio. Slip on your minimal sneakers, notch your headphones into your ears, tuck your smartphone into your pocket, and take us along for a walk while we talk. Or just grab a cup of your favorite drink and get on the floor and stretch a bit while we bring you all things fitness, core, and diastases recti related.
You guys ready?
Yes.
Yep. All right.
Born ready.
Born ready. I love that.
I love your first one, though, when you're like, I wish I could just say all those things. I know. That is so bad.
Hey everybody, welcome to Fit to Be Radio. My name is Chris Benke. I'm the host today. I'm also here with Beth Learn. She's the CEO and founder of Fit to Be Studio. We also have with us Dr. Lisa Holland. She's an integrative women's health educator and therapist. It's very exciting to have you here with us today, Lisa. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to finally meet you, Chris. And of course, yes. I love spending some chat time with Beth.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. Where are you located? Where are you coming to us from today?
Yeah, today I'm at home. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. But I do a lot of things virtual, so I kind of like to be on the move, trying to move that way to sort of maybe start bringing it on the road and here and there. Yeah. But yeah, I'm in Charlotte, and it's a pretty conservative town, so it's been quite a ride for this physio yogi spout and spiritualist in the Bible Belt. But I'm pretty former New Yorker on top of it, and Puerto Rican Latina. So it's been a pretty good ride.
So how long have you been in Charlotte?
I've been here since 2004.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of growth. It's a completely different town here, hospital wise, as well as it's a banking town. Growing out of that. Okay. But yeah. And
then before that, you said New York.
Yeah, born and raised in New York City, downstate area.
Right.
So kind of lived in the three boroughs kind of area right there, right around New York City. That's where I cut my teeth as both as an athletic trainer, which is what I was. I graduated my undergrad and as a sports therapist, athletics trainer, and then went right into physical therapy. Did a good 10 years with that whole PT/ATC, orthopedic sports medicine thing. And then I realized that I couldn't take any courses in women's health that I was looking at women athletes. There was nothing really addressing them different. And I just decided to go into women's health, and from a very holistic standpoint, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So how are you connected with Fit to Be? How do you know Beth? Because you guys seem like you do know each other pretty well.
Yeah. Well, Beth and I crossed paths at Jessica Drummond's event in New York City. What was that, 2016?
2016. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she was in the back sitting with Jenny Burrell, and I was internet friends with Jenny, talking. And I was like, I can't wait to really talk with you. And so I went over there to that table, and she was hanging there, and just, energy, good energy.
Good.
And so I met her and Beth Jones and Rachel Holmes, and we had a nice table there talking for a little bit.
I could have sat at that table for years.
Yeah. So I just kind of called on Beth when I had some things that I wanted to kind of talk about in my podcast and my stuff, and we've kept in touch through our mutual community with the Integrative Women's Health Institute and Women's Health World. So
that's fantastic.
Now we're here.
I love it.
I did not know how much I needed that event in New York. I mean, I was just kind of going along for the ride, and as soon as I got there, it was like, oh, these are my people.
You're in.
I found them.
Yeah, it was a good crew. It was a good meeting of the minds, and a lot of growth's going to be. It really kind of fueled my fire in terms of these are my people, but I think they're my new tribe. My new, somehow I need to support them kind of, because we all have the same, I think it was the first time probably a lot of us got to see ourselves outside of the screen face. and talking about things like, girl, you gotta get over that, or like let's do this collaboration, or just from like a very casual kind of thing, as opposed to very clinically oriented, just as people in people's energy and their realness or not realness.
Right.
And I think that was part of the beauty of having that collective. It got me thinking, like holding circles, the way I've held circles for women. Maybe there's a need at the I don't want to say higher, but at the bigger circle, that's feeding into these, to also have that. Yeah. Because when you're going through all of your training and this and that, it's about being the expert.
Right. Yeah.
And really the reality is we're all evolving, and nobody's going to know what the hell we're doing if we don't learn how to shine that and know who we are. And, so I'm trying to really promote that now. Like, hey guys, that's wonderful. I love those 56 letters after your name, but nobody knows where to get you or who you are in the conversation. Right. So it's going to be really hard to do business.
Let's talk about that.
We've all got to start doing that.
Yeah, so you're a therapist, but you're also an educator, and you're an educator of.
Yeah, honestly, I really try to teach women about their whole power, their whole empowerment. So that for me has always been, my first brand was the Belly Guru, and that came out of the pregnancy year, because that's a very empowering transitional time for a woman to really decide what she's going to do. I mean, that's a big, you're basically setting yourself up, whether or not your relationship, how you got pregnant or whatever works out, you're in it for the long term at that point. Right, and there's a lot of, helping women through many transitions, emotional stuff, a lot of cleaning up of things from the past and moving into the future. And so I was always educating women into how to reclaim that power. And, a really strong background of me clinically is the yoga therapist hat that I wear, and my own journey using yoga as a personal development and lifestyle system. I could care less what the posture was or what class, power class versus this or that. For me, it was a very personally transforming. It was a way for me to utilize or rectify some of my difficulties with religion and spirituality. And then as the science started coming out with neuroplasticity and just chemical dynamics and all of this, so much of that was actually already said in yoga, and I had this wonderful bridge building opportunity. And so I became an educator as the Belly Guru, really in that bridge building role of sort of making the East sound a little bit more West. So that it didn't seem like such an abstract, I'm not always talking chakras or this or that, but I do talk about energy. Right. I can relate that to vitality and cellular, needs now. There's the words. So educating both the East and the West on how they're not really that different. I'm educating the women themselves out in the public about having this opportunity to look at themselves and their mind and their body as a union. And then their spiritual life is an aspect of their health, their spiritual health, and how that's not necessarily, really trying to just kind of not necessarily talk the taboo subjects, but talk about things that, like the pink elephant in the room. Right. I'm okay. I'm trying to find a way for them to talk about the pink elephant in the room, because so much of the imbalance and relationship issues and lack of ability to rise in your career and is so much personal stuff and so much time, that inability to, number one, see the pink elephant, and then number two, once you see it, not ignore it.
Right.
So, I really feel like that's where I'm an educator in terms of like really life school about being a woman and what we could do with that body, mind, and spirit or soul, purpose,
Yeah, I want to go back to the Belly Guru and talk about how that started, how motherhood kind of propelled that into existence, and then, how did that come to where you are now? How did that evolve?
Yeah. I knew that I wanted to work with women, and when we moved down to Charlotte, I was kind of burnt out from that whole New York, thing, and I really thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. But I knew I was going to do something. Like I purposely moved to Charlotte because I knew that we could get in with the nice house and this and that with enough room for me to breathe a little bit, not having to be a 2-income family and whatnot. And then as I was there in the cul-de-sac, watching all the women with their, obligatory wine at 5 p.m. because that's how they get going. And, with their pretty houses and their pretty perfect everything. I kind of started asking them questions like, why is this not working for you still? Like, why still the wine? You moved from so and so. You made this perfect little house, and I realized there was some, same issues with the health and things like that I had gone through, postpartum depression, and some other things that they were suffering from too, but didn't have a place to go except the YMCA. And unfortunately, when you walk into the YMCAs here, it's like, la, 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 there's lots of energy. I literally was making a space for them to just exhale. If you can get the kids in the car. And so literally that became my mindset. And I knew pregnancy was where I'm going to grab them. Right. Because if you wait until a mom already has the kids, she never has the time. Or she just goes back into kind of her mindset of before, and that might not necessarily be where she is in her cycle of life and needs to honor that. If you try to get them too young, they don't listen to anything because it's never going to, be them. Yeah. So this is my way of getting into family and your children, window. Help the moms. And it's the same thing with Heal the Healers. Yeah. Their mom is the medicine woman of society, and we don't honor them.
When you said YMCA, I thought you said wine MCA at first because you had just been talking about that. I was like, oh, wine MCA. Huh.
That might be.
Is that like native to Charlotte? Is that?
No, but that would be a wonderful flyer to attract people to the next.
You do get the workout. You get the workout and the wine, which can be
actually very popular here in Charlotte for yoga class. Here and brew and yoga.
I believe it.
I don't really know how that works out, except for an addiction. But some other things like that. Some other.
Now you mentioned Heal the Healers, and that I see that as the overreaching theme of this podcast because you and I both kind of straddle a fence. We were talking about this in the pre-show with working with lay people and professional people, all of whom are positioned to impact the world around them in pretty dramatic ways. They're therapists themselves, they're fitness professionals, they're mothers, they're fathers, they are therapists, occupational therapists, they're doctors, they're nurses, and that's just who we work with. That's who we attract. And all of them have that thing in common that they're spending so much time helping other people that they're not. I know for me, I can go a whole day and spend so much time talking and writing about these topics, and then I go to bed and go, wait, I never actually drank my own water, and I never actually did my own exercises.
Master carpenter with no trim on his windows in his own house.
Yeah.
We're all givers, and so we need to learn the balance of receiving. And receptivity is actually a little bit of that thing of why I kind of wanted to kind of teach this curvy hustle, because it's both. See, it's not just give and go get and hunt and gather. There's a side of it. And it's not just women or men that, we need to both of us, both sides of the coin and everything in between need to learn how to use the full spectrum for what's necessary. So we need to have our boundaries. We need to have our cycles, our seasons. We need to honor the receptivity without feeling like, everybody's do.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing, resiliency has to be built. Resiliency has to be absorbed and received and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really about a balance. And I think, both of us speak to the caregiver, regardless of, kind of what their primary profession is, whether it's mom or being, out there in some sort of CEO role or a mix in between. We're probably attracting that in both camps, because I know for me, what I feel like I've realized is I'm really attracting the medicine women. And the medicine women are as much of the, women in their homes, making sure the next generation is solid, as well as the ones that are changing, things out there for the generation that is out there.
Right. And you have a hashtag. Tell us what your hashtag is.
Yes. The hashtag is Medicine Woman Rising. And I also like to Number 2, get her, we rise, because that is really the mindset or the energy of really a movement. I mean, I made my Mind Body Brand Academy, which is really an entrepreneur launch kind of accelerator out of that same mindset of togetherness, abundance. You know, again, another feminine, curvier hustle.
And it was so fun. It was so fun to be involved in that. You had me on there to talk about. There's a spider. Sorry, I just distracted myself. There's a very big spider in my window, but he's 6 feet away, so I'm just going to leave him alone.
He's good for
back to the Curvy Hustle. I'm just not going to look at him. You had me on to talk about, you know, what it's like to have a successful business as a mom, and how I balance faith and family and fitness and I
membership. Really, that membership, making that community, which is really a bit more different, curvier hustle.
It's different for me than it is for everybody else. And I can't tell. I mean, I can offer insight and inspiration, but when it comes to the end of the day, everybody's doing it a little bit differently, and that's part of the beauty.
Exactly. And like seeing that, you know, like we can, I think that's, again, appreciating beauty and aesthetics. You want to go get that, Mr.
Well,
Spider?
he disappeared. Now I don't know where he is.
That's okay.
I'm sure he's going away. He's going farther away.
Spider. Like that, just a nice friendly nursery right.
Yeah, we don't really have many poisonous spiders here. We have brown recluses, but I've never seen one in my house.
I will tell you, moving to the south, everything is bigger. Everything is bigger in the south. Literally the bugs, the mosquitoes, the everything. That's the one thing I noticed. I don't know if it's stunted growth from the
lack of sunshine.
The lack of sunshine.
In New York or what, but
over here it's mold and no sunshine, so I think that's what keeps us.
Northwest girl. I couldn't be a Northwest girl, I can tell you that.
I love these little rabbit trails. They're so much fun. This is what really makes it for me.
But you know what? You know what's beautiful is that, you know, I could be talking like this. This is why I was saying before we started recording, like, you know, call me anytime, Beth, when you want to like discuss something kind of like it's like a mix of business and just life or just being who you are, because I can do this all the time. Like I have a good friend, Christine Calveri Weber, who's in the yoga therapy world. And like literally I was saying one time to her, I'm like, do you realize in the past half hour, we talked about our kids, our husbands, a marketing idea that we had, a funnel idea, you know, what we're doing personally, like her research thing or whatever. And I love that, like, because I don't have, like, I literally think I have built my brand and network around having that in my life, because in my segments, you know, out in the cul-de-sac, I'm not talking too much about, you know, wearing my PT hat on or my women's health coach hat on, or, you know,
because that kills conversations, I've learned.
Yeah, you're like, I don't care, you know, I don't care. Or they like, just like, I just want to complain. I don't want the solution. And then, you know, then in the other circles, sometimes I'm just like, guys, can we just be like, just put it away for the night and just talk about how we're just really pissed off at our husbands right now or something, like, you know, like,
just be real.
Just really like, and not worrying so much about competing. There's such an adolescent vibe sometimes in women's circles that I'm really hoping you rise above. And it's all personal stuff. There's so much personal development that has to happen. And I think having those circles where you can sort of be just who you are in the complexity that you are and have somebody follow it is wonderful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you find that people are resistant to that idea, that kind of, you know, I call it well-rounded, but that sounds too good. Some people think that it's that you shouldn't merge all of these things together and that you should keep your life siloed. Do you find that people are resistant to that?
Yeah, I do see the resistance, but I think it's only a resistance with vulnerability and their desire to keep up the game or the facade a little bit in whatever role. Like you're working and that, again, that comes to a point of like, can you authentically show up in all your roles and understand that none of those roles are your actual identity,
and that's risky, and that's a risky thing, and that's also a really bold thought process in terms of, wait, my identity is not in the letters after my name, and it's not in this pretty clinic that I work in. And I, like, as Bethany, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a core fitness specialist. We have these I am statements. I am a mother. I am a wife. You look at people's Instagram they give you a certain number of words to define who you are. I am, our faith, whatever faith background you have. And it's like, at the heart, like, does that even really encompass what we all are?
Right. You can get lost in it. Like you can get lost in it. I think that's, Chris, to your question, that's kind of what happens to some people where they don't even, I worked a lot of my years as the belly guru, and even now working with women is still kind of them losing themselves in the role or the title.
Right.
Or the season of life even, and not remaining anchored. But that's because, again, I just think there's a whole life you have to live, and we really have to get to our younger girls, our young women, to help them remember the inner child as they get older and older and older, and become the maiden and become the mother and become the matriarch, and then we're full circle. Never losing track of that inner child. And I think men or women that lose track of that, I think men actually have a lot easier time keeping with their childish ways. Personally, they kind of are, still making fart jokes and still like whatever, way into their 40s and 50s. But it's a way to sort of connect with an inner child playfulness that I think women, unless you allow them, you really instill in them that that's okay. How to be childlike without being childish. That's where it needs to happen in maturity for everyone. Yeah. And so if you have that and you show up in life like that, I just think that's a power. I just think that's an untapped power that men and women could have. And then the resistance is down. Now they can just show up wherever they are, whoever they are.
It's tough, right? Because our entire culture is designed around defining who you are in 140 characters for your Instagram profile, right? Like,
or your Twitter,
So if you have to do that, then you're kind of, in order to do that, you really falsify what the truth is, and you create a fake reality. It's not real. It's just not.
It's not. Well, I don't know if it's so much. I mean, I think for some people it is fake. I think for others, it's never going to be the full picture, and we have to remember that ourselves.
Yeah, we have to remember that exactly. It's not the full picture, and definitely have to remember it ourselves. Never mind everybody else's opinion. They'll see whatever they want. Everybody has an opinion of you, whether you talk or you don't talk, or you show up or you don't show up.
Right.
But like I've just had fun with that lately. Like writing out in my thing. Like my Instagram right now is like goddess maker, conversation starter. Because I'm at the point where I'm like, ask me more. I think that ask me more. Don't define me by, if I write PT, DPT, WHC, CIAYT, CA. I'm kind of like in this, like, first of all, they've stopped reading it. And half the time they're like, they don't know what those letters are.
Yeah. So, is this alphabet soup? Yeah. Now, how do you, here's a question I have that came to me while you were talking about that inner child. Because you discussed how a lot of men stay comfortable making those potty talk things, those little jokes, but girls don't, and we tend, we're very ladylike, and we don't talk that way. And how do you think that impacts women as they pursue their health? I mean, we talk about men keeping us down, but I'm sorry, I think it's the opposite. I think we women keep ourselves down.
I agree with
a whole lot more, because the men in my life, many of whom are what our nation right now would look at and maybe label as those fundamentalist, just white Christian males. I'm sorry, they are more open and more encouraging of me and all the other female entrepreneurs in my life. They advocate for us to break taboos, and it's the women that are like, "Oh, your slip is showing." Oh.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, I mean, what ends up happening, honestly, is that I guess identification with like where your purpose is. Again, going back to that a little bit. But in terms of health, personal health, again, if you're talking about going to the bathroom, being such this secretive thing, or that area not having a name, or nobody looking there, or anything like that, it makes it kind of hard to talk to people when you're having dysfunction in your pelvic area. It makes it kind of hard when you are labeled in a certain, or here's what I would want to say, maybe not appreciating the sacred geometry that I feel like women are. I mean, yoga, asana, I'll go back to my yoga hat on. The whole point of the asana posture is sacred geometry. It's all mathematical. It's all about angles and this and that. You don't learn about that in your hot booty sweat class, but there's a layer to it. And there's a whole science. And so, taking on part of that is understanding the sacred geometry, everything with the hand mudras and the phonetics and mantra, and all of that is very important because it's all mathematical. It's all designed with the mathematics of the world and the universe.
Yeah, I've been reading. I bought Ginger Garner's Medical Therapeutic Yoga.
There you go.
And it's like I could read 3 pages and then go back through it and highlight it and go back through it and highlight it again. I was looking at the vocal cords and playing with sound while you're in certain positions, and how, it just blew my mind. I mean,
just think about that. If you don't have a voice, if you're brought up to not have a voice in your community or in your family, think about that impact, knowing just the anatomy and the physiology and the forces and the physics on the body with the glottis and the pelvic floor. Or even, if in child, again, if your body and its shape is altered by your role as mother, or in, I don't know, the workouts that you do or something like that, and there's this different socialization because of it. Just think about that impact in a biopsychosocial way.
Wow.
It's very impactful. That kind of not being in touch with your inner child is a very traumatic and disempowering thing. And whoever started that, whoever was that, maybe at some point that was the men in some way, because it's really scary if you ever have a woman who knows that what her purpose is and is willing to proclaim it, you can't stop her. And there are certain things about the way we view the world and the power we have to create it that men will just never have. And, that reality may have been something, but as you said, later on, now, with an education, with going to school, with having access, with being as smart as we are with the internet, being able to look up things even if you can't go to school, if you have access, with the desire that you might have in you through a certain mindset, there's no excuse why you are still worrying and complaining about stuff that just doesn't mean anything. You're just holding yourself back. I mean, I say that all the time. Nobody can see. One of the big reasons why I want to support women to shine themselves the way they are, whether it's for health or wealth, is because I can't keep hearing you complain nobody's inviting you to the party when nobody ever sees you to invite you. They don't know what they're looking for. They don't know what a strong woman is right now because we haven't shown it to them in our feminine form. We've sort of said, make me one of the boys, and then tried to compile ourselves into that. But you know what? Don't work. It doesn't work. Your husband doesn't work on your hormones.
I'd like to talk about that for a second. You talk a lot about kind of approaching things from a feminine perspective versus a masculine perspective.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is we kind of live in a world of duality here. So there's lots of black and white, up and down, top and bottom. I'm in healthcare. That's how you learned about the whole entire body. Right and left, up and down, inner and outer, male and female. So we have a mindset of these big drastic things. But, when you're living a life, you realize it's all the gray in between.
Yeah.
And so we really need to start appreciating that. The problem is we've only been sort of at one or the other. Or we've decided when we're going to blend it, we're just going to become the other one. Nobody's really working here in the middle. And so that's what, when I'm talking about more masculine traits, I'm talking very, very traditional hunter-gatherer, very traditional role, very traditional linear. When you're talking to a guy, he's just like, get to the point. What do I got to know out of this conversation? When you're talking to a girl, her mindset's kind of like, I'm going to tell you like the whole situation so you understand why I said what I was going to say.
Right.
And it's, and it's just kind of like, it's frustrating. And like marriage between a man and a woman, or even I would say now between a masculine and more feminine form, because now we understand, people are understanding that they're a mix and are finding their own groove in that and are living that way. But if you are still just kind of on one side thinking the other thing is not yours to take and use in your own way, you're at a disadvantage, because there's plenty of times I got to be the arrow targeting to something. And then there's other times where I got to be thinking of myself as more of the target. And, more of the attraction to have the things come to me.
Right.
And men and women could really utilize that. And I really feel like if we weren't so tied into, mama's boy, what is mama's boy? You know what mama's boy is? The sensitive guy that kind of gets his mother and is probably going to be a really good guy to his wife, as long as his mom doesn't have an attachment problem. If his mom has an attachment problem, then he's going to have a problem. It's not the kid's problem for being a sensitive guy, but we kind of like criminalize that the same way. We might say, in the past, like these women that were coming up in the 80s and 90s as CEOs and stuff. Oh, she's a bitch. Why is she a bitch? Because she told everybody to shut up and get to the work that they had to do. So because she was showing her more masculine way to get to the point, but it wasn't known. People didn't know what that looked like with breasts and a vagina. People didn't know what sensitive looks like with a penis. Now we have this opportunity where we're kind of more open to, genders and attributes, and we could really sort of embrace just who the hell we are and show up that way in our full power, in our full glory.
Now, what do you see the crossover being when it comes to, because I always want to tie it into fitness. What do you see the crossover being with that female and masculine energy when it comes to how women train versus how men train, and those perspectives? And I know for me, one of the hurdles I'm constantly trying to get my clients over is this notion that women should only lift light things, and women should be skinny and petite, and women should not grunt, and women should not women shouldn't sweat, and it's what even is that? And
the invention of CrossFit, I think, probably killed that.
Well, hopefully, but as somebody who serves a lot of people in that Bible Belt, which, by the way, my grandpa was a preacher in the Bible Belt, and I think you're okay in my book.
There you go.
I think you and him would have had a great time in a room together. I would pay money to be in that room. Oh my gosh, that'd be so much fun. But it's this, I think what you're really getting at, but I want you to expand on it more, is that we can choose. We can choose to take that curvy hustle, to kind of do it more in circles, and to explore all of these more esoteric, romantic avenues. Okay, those are just some words I randomly picked. We can also choose to be very linear and be very, and to make fart jokes if that furthers our purpose. But how does that play out in fitness, the way you see it?
Well, I think that, again, if we're going to say fitness, it's really what physical fitness is the main thing people are thinking.
And it is overall wellness.
Yeah, mental fitness, emotional fitness, all of this is expanded too. But I think if we're looking at the world of weights and aerobics and cycling and this and that, there was a time my mother was brought up very much like girls don't learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I remember that. Whoa, I remember my mom talking. She's like, yeah, because that might ruin your virginity.
Yeah. So, again, the confusion over not knowing about the woman's body, not knowing about, health, not knowing, things had to evolve to some extent. But again, there's no excuse right now. If you're having to take anabolic steroids because your body has limits, I think you got to look at what you're really doing there. I think that's a personal thing, if you are somebody who's not building, muscle mass like you should, and you have the testosterone levels, maybe you should go inquire to see if something's not working or whatever. But because
women do have testosterone and men do have estrogen.
Yeah, exactly. People think that nobody has the other things. And we're all, again, it's all about our mix. It's all about our mix of the same stuff. And so I think that what ends up happening in fitness is, again, we're seeing still that played out kind of thing where, I mean, come on, if you're lifting weights and you're peeing on yourself, or if you're really feeling like you have to, I mean, there's even shirts. I did a talk in 2015 where I was showing an advertisement in a CrossFit gym about how lady was selling shirts like I poop on myself, like it's something to be proud about.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, this is not, I understand it's like in this fun culture, but again, you know, it's just kind of.
Yeah, and they think they're normalizing it.
Yeah, they're normalizing it. They're not keeping the sacred geometry.
They are normalizing it. But it's not. It's not
a good normal. It's not an acceptable normal. Right. And what is it? The stats are what? I think I heard from, I just forgot her name. One of the gals that talked at the New York thing. She's Latina too. What's her name?
Well,
I just listened to her thing last week. She talked, 28% of female athletes have anal incontinence. And 37% of them have urinary incontinence. And that's regardless of pregnancy. Like this was triathletes. And I think they were actually all non-gravid, meaning none of them had been pregnant and they were dealing with this stuff.
Right.
And
it's playing out in the same way it's always played out. In fitness, again, you're not healthy just because you do fitness, because you may be an unhealthy person mentally, no boundaries when you're doing that workout. You know, in high school, my friends who were on the wrestling team were like wearing plastic all day and sweating and dehydrating themselves. And they were an athlete.
It's not
a healthy one in my book, but it worked for wrestling. So we all have to understand that if you're training for an event, maybe you're working that way. But if you're obsessed with a certain way because of the fitness culture, then we have to look at that as, is that actually healthy? And so I think we're just looking at that same conversation we're having outside the fitness world and everywhere else. What is our boundary? What is actually healthy? What is expected for a certain role, such as triathlete or whatnot, while you're training, by the way? Not that you're a loser, who doesn't decide to train that way when you're not training for a triathlon. It all goes back to mindset. I mean, we've got to take care of up in the head area. Then I think the body would just follow, because it really does keep the score. And it's a puppet. It's a puppet. We keep focusing on the body and manipulating the body on biohacking, and we're forgetting that it's following the subconscious of the mind and the brain. And brain exactly is body, really. So it's really about the mind and our interaction with the world.
It's all connected. I know that for myself, having just put together the Fit to Be Girls course last year, and we added the lesson on body image disorders. And as I read that lesson, my whole life, I have thought, I do not have an issue with this. Don't have an issue with this. I've always been pretty comfortable in my own skin, never had an eating disorder. But there was something that came out in this, and it was partly about how it's this, not just eating disorders, or that you think you're fatter than you really are. But it's this thing where you really don't see yourself as you are, though. And there's this struggle with this need to be defined. Because when I was younger, I was always praised for my arms. Oh, you have such strong arms. Whoa, look at your deltoids. And recently when I had surgery and I started losing that definition because I lost the nerve connection, I almost felt like I was losing a piece of my identity. And I talked about this in a live chat I did on Facebook this morning. Because I have found myself just recently like trying to get that back and fixating on that. And it's to the point of resigning and letting go of some of the softness that my body has shifted to. That my husband has actually enjoyed. He's like, I kind of like this new, it's a little softer around the edges, and because it's more feminine. He's like, and he said, when I married you, you were all hard edges. And I thought about that because when I got married, I really saw myself as beautiful and strong, and I was. And he's like, and I loved your body then because I really love it now. I love the softness of it. It's like this. And I think that some of us female athletes, we can get caught in this distorted image cycle of trying to be a bit more masculine than we're designed to be.
Or chiseled.
And in the process, chiseled. In the process of chasing that, and then we end up with these dysfunctions. We end up hurting ourselves because as women, And we're not really designed to do those things. And I know you've also pointed out that in yoga, it was designed by guys who their pelvic floor musculature is not the same as ours. And so there are some poses in yoga that can be detrimental to a woman in her childbearing years because we have an extra hole.
Right. Like, we can't deny it. You have an extra hole. Deal with it. Like,
Yes.
your physics is different. Your forces are different because
Right.
of that. Like, that's
Don't
the thing we
pretend
kind
like
of
it's
always
not.
want to forget. Right.
Yeah. We have
But yeah,
estrogen.
Yeah.
we have a lot of estrogen, and it's cycling. See, that's the thing. It's not that. It's
Right.
not only that, but it is cycling, and there's a purpose there. So,
Mhm.
you really can't be so surprised. We have 1 in 6 now or whatever with fertility issues.
Mm.
You can't have it all. You can't have it all in that way. You can't disregard the normal physiology, biohack it, do whatever you want with your brain, right? Our human brain to be able to make everything we want as we want it, because nature's always going to win. Nature's going to say, okay, we're making a new human race. All right, let's just get rid of the old one. Let's do what you want, and so, it's just following our lead.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get the monkey mind, and we're kind of looking at the immediate. And so, if something makes you feel good, you feel strong. We do need upper strength as we get older as women.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the factors of our morbidity if we do not. But to the point, again, if it needs to be, again, I think it's the factor of need. Like if you can't be happy unless,
Right.
Yeah.
then we're getting into something unhealthy. And let's think about it. Like, if a guy doesn't have something, it seems interesting to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just like the women, they explored having the strong muscle and doing all those things. But I think there was this I think for me and for a lot of the women in my community, there was sort of this backlash that said, wait a minute, I don't think I want that. There's some of that traditional stuff I actually think I'm going to enjoy and be okay with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this definitely wasn't the path I was going to have, but it's definitely down a path that was because I wanted to bring in more flexibility. And a lot of that flexibility was around me being at home.
Yeah. Which is, so it's like, and I too have noticed there's a shift back to, well, maybe it's not so bad to be feminine and to just be a woman. And if we want to be home, be home. If you want to work. I do both. I work outside and inside the home, and I love it. That's my balance. What's interesting is my older sister, was always the one who was like, I'm going to keep working when I have kids. She was a medical assistant. I'm going to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to have 10 kids, stay at home. And it has been the opposite in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
She had 3 kids and stays at home, quit working. She tried to go back to work, did not work for her. She was a hot mess, admitted it. She said, I can't do this. I want to be home with my kids. I quit working, stayed home, and then was like, I need something new.
And I think it's really beautiful. I have a brother who's a millennial, okay, because he's 11 years younger than me. And he's in that generation. I'm seeing more of the men be more open in his age to, also wanting that work-life balance. Because again, we're starting to blend in. We're like, you know what? I think I just want to be a parent. A parent doesn't say whether you have XX or XY. So I think we're seeing that blend where eventually maybe we'll just be working with what works with us. I have another neighbor in my community that they flipped roles. He now stays home. He's doing that stuff. She's the one out, earning the money, and they're perfectly happy with that in totally flipped roles. So
Chris works from home and runs this business and a couple others, and he rocks
just
it.
Finding a way to make it work. Like, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be the way, I guess, maybe a generation before us. We're using our creativity, our attributes of creativity and connection and community and transparency and vulnerability and all of those beautiful feminine powers that were looked at as weaknesses. We're realizing they're actually powers to make the life that you love. Because honestly, isn't that what it's all about?
Right.
Without being so hedonistic that you're going to destroy everybody else's life. It's more of that eudaimonic kind of well-being in the totality that we really have to shift towards.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, what I hear you saying overall too is that to heal the healers, to heal ourselves, to get back to the roots of it, we have to have this well-rounded thing. We need to let go of that linear image that this has to be a certain way and this has to look a certain way.
Right.
And for some people, that actually means re-embracing some more traditional roles. For other people, that might mean letting go of some of those traditional roles that they thought they would be in, which is what happened with me. I thought I was going to be the stay-at-home mom wearing an apron, shepherding around 10 kids. And nope.
And for some people, Beth, it has to be the other way. Maybe they went too much off on their tangents and curves, and they need to come back to that linear, that the things that they set out to do. And I think midlife, we kind of realize, we're like, you know what? I wanted to be, I wanted to, and being okay with that, being okay to switch roles or to switch ideas or make it start working for you. That's a really important part too.
So Lisa, let's say you get 2 minutes, just 2 minutes with the woman that's right in the thick of it. She's not really sure. She's not really even connecting with some of the stuff we've been talking about, maybe even who she really should be. What do you tell her? What's your advice to her?
Oh, I always start off every conversation. Let me hear your story.
Okay.
Let me hear your story. And that will lead us the way. Because if she doesn't have one, she really focuses on everybody else but hers.
Right.
You know, that tells me a lot. I can reflect that back. That's kind of more of my coaching hat on of, you know, I hold up the mirror and I ask and I tell her I will listen. And she'll hear herself.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there.
I really like that. So even not having a story is totally a story. Absolutely.
Exactly.
That is fantastic. I love that. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been
fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I love your perspective. I really like how you're talking about this whole well-rounded approach to things. I think that, you know, a lot of people say that, but they don't really practice it. I think that it's awesome that you're helping empower people to learn how to do that better. Fits right in with all the stuff that Beth is always working on and talking about. I think there's good synergy too. You know, I think it's important that people pay attention to this stuff. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about all of the things you're doing, which is a lot of cool things, by the way.
And we'll link, so make sure if you're listening that you check out the links and that you watch this, because we've had all kinds of expressions about spiders and other things.
Oh yes, definitely. You have to. It's definitely something to watch, not just to listen to this.
He came out and he's on again.
Yeah, he's.
Oh gosh. You know, probably the best place is my www.Dr. Lisa Holland PT page, and that's DR for doctor. That's for kind of connecting me to a whole. If you are in the Charlotte area, or if you're looking for like connecting the dots, a lot of women are kind of have many specialties and they can't connect the dots. You can still contact me at my Belly Guru, www.bellyguru.com. That's BELLYGURU.com.
Okay.
But either way, you know, social media at Dr. Lisa Holland PT. Goddess Wisdom Mastermind, anything Goddess, I'll probably come up. Lisa Goddess, like that.
She's got a feisty social media system.
So my Instagram is probably the most about me. If my Instagram scares you, then maybe there's somebody else I can connect you to. That's pretty much me.
Good. We'll link to that stuff in the show notes as well, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for stretching our brains today. It was good stuff.
Oh, thank you. I don't know how not to, so I appreciate that you appreciate that.
I like that.
Oh, bring it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Good golly, Miss Molly, if that didn't give you something to chew on, I don't know what will. Thanks for listening. I really hope you join our community over at fit2be.com, where you can gain access to all our exercise videos and fitness e-courses. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to Fit2Be Radio, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Fit2Be, on Instagram at Fit2Be Studio, and on Facebook via Fit2Be Tummy Safe Fitness. See you soon!